Good day, and welcome back to another exciting Crime Time with Mike. We are heading into the topic of the Night Stalker. Inside Richard Ramirez's reign of terror. It was the summer of 1985 in Los Angeles, and fear was more suffocating than the heat itself. Behind locked doors and shuttered windows, families whispered about a shadowy figure who seemed to move like smoke, slipping into homes at night, leaving behind scenes of horror that the city had never witnessed before. He was unpredictable, brutal, and his victims came from every walk of life. The press called him the Night Stalker, and in just a few short months, Richard Ramirez turned one of the brightest cities in America into a hunting ground drenched in fear. But how did Los Angeles descend into this nightmare? To understand, we have to go back to the beginning, when life in the city still felt safe. Los Angeles in the mid-1980s was alive with neon lights, booming music, and restless energy. The city thrived. Hollywood glittered, freeways buzzed, and neighborhoods stretched from wealthy suburbs to working-class blocks. People left their windows open at night, trusting the cool breeze more than deadbolts. Safety wasn't questioned. It was assumed. But beneath the glow, tension simmered. Crime was rising, and the city's sprawl made it difficult for police to track patterns. When the first brutal murders hit the news, many dismissed them as isolated tragedies. Yet, as more victims surfaced, unease began to creep into every home. That growing unease would soon harden into full-blown terror, as investigators realized they weren't dealing with random crimes, but with a predator who hunted in the dark. It began quietly, almost unnoticed. In June 1984, a 79-year-old woman named Jenny Vincu was found murdered in her Los Angeles apartment. She had been stabbed repeatedly, her body mutilated. The kind of violence that suggested not just a killing, but a message. For detectives, the crime was brutal but seemingly isolated. There was no clear motive, no forced entry, no immediate suspect. But for Richard Ramirez, this was only the beginning. The seed of his reign of terror had been planted, and before long it would spread across the city like wildfire. And soon, Los Angeles would learn that this was no ordinary killer. He was something far more terrifying. As summer stretched on, the attacks grew bolder. Ramirez broke into homes across Los Angeles, striking at random. Sometimes he would shoot his victims, other times he used knives, cords, or blunt force. His cruelty seemed to have no limits. Women, men, children, the elderly, no one was safe. The press gave him a name, the Night Stalker, and that name carried weight. It became a whisper in every household. A headline splashed across newspapers, a nightmare parents prayed their families would never face. Entire neighborhoods bought new locks, boarded up windows, and armed themselves. Yet the Night Stalker kept slipping through the cracks, leaving only terror in his wake. Detectives were desperate. Unlike most killers, Ramirez had no pattern, no single type of victim, no preferred weapon. He attacked wherever the opportunity arose, making him unpredictable and nearly impossible to profile. But then came the survivors. Those who had lived through his attacks described a gaunt man with decaying teeth, wild eyes, and a chilling grin. Composite sketches hit the front pages, and suddenly, the Night Stalker was no longer just a phantom. He had a face. Still, the killings continued. Every day the pressure mounted. The city demanded answers, and the hunt became one of the largest manhunts Los Angeles had ever seen. Then, in late August 1985, fate finally turned. Richard Ramirez was spotted in East Los Angeles after his face had been plastered across every newspaper in the city. Residents recognized him immediately. When Ramirez attempted to carjack a woman, the community struck back. Ordinary citizens chased him down, beat him, and held him until police arrived. After months of fear, the Night Stalker was finally behind bars, not captured by authorities, but by the very people he had terrorized. The city of Los Angeles breathed for the first time in months, but the nightmare was far from over. Richard Ramirez was sentenced to death in 1989. though he would live for decades on death row before dying in prison of natural causes. His reign ended, but the scars he left behind in Los Angeles never truly faded. The Night Stalker's legacy is one of chaos, fear, and shattered innocence. He reminded the world that evil does not always lurk in dark alleys. Sometimes it creeps in through unlocked windows and open doors. The story of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, is a chilling reminder of how one man can paralyze an entire city with fear. If this story shook you, subscribe to Crime Time with Mike for more true crime stories that reveal the darkest chapters in human history. And remember, stay alert, stay safe, and never underestimate the shadows. Thank you for watching.